Welcome to the 311 Griffin YouTube channel. My friend bought me the F-14 module, and the first thing I decided to do was do my little obstacle course run to see what kind of an F-14 time I could set. A lot of people requested this and were wanting to see how the F-14 fared against the other aircraft, and so I thought I might as well do that first. So this is about the 6th or 7th run that I did. I had some issues with, first of all, with controlling the Tomcat, and you'll see that I struggle with it a little bit. It's definitely different than what I'm used to. So I do struggle with it, and just like I said on the other obstacle course runs I did with the F-18, F-16, and F-15, a more skilled pilot would definitely be able to bring this time down. But that's what I struggled with at first, and then I started struggling with my recording software. I've been having a lot of issues with both of my recording softwares, and that's getting frustrating. And then I really struggled with the tracks because I didn't get one of the first run that I successfully did. I didn't get recorded, so I went back to just watch the track, and of course for whatever reason, all of the tracks I've watched so far with the F-14, it doesn't do what I did. The first time it was way off, and then the second time it was doing all the things I did, it just wasn't correct in the space. So it wound up crashing, and it wasn't going through the obstacles correctly. So anyway, you'll see that I did a wide turn there at first, and now I'm coming back through here, possibly slower than I should be. And I'm not even for sure that I'm hitting the obstacles correctly, but I think that this is how I went through it before. It's been a long time, but this one always kind of gave me a little bit of trouble, and I'd almost lose control and crash there, but maybe I was going too slow, maybe I was pulling too many G's, I'm not really for sure. This section right here, I did more cleanly the first time I went through it, but this isn't bad. It didn't miss any obstacles, so I don't have to penalize the Tomcat, or myself, I guess I should say. This wasn't too bad. I always got a little bit slow here, or was pulling a little bit too hard. And then here I just try to get as low as I can. I try to use the altitude to pick up my speed a little bit, because the whole goal here is to get as fast as possible and as straight as possible, so that at the end, when you go between those last two pylons, you can pull up into a climb. Now, I'm not quite sure how hard you can pull on the Tomcat when it's going fast. I did rip the wings off once, so I've pulled harder than this before, so I think this pull up into the climb was a little bit slower than it should have been, maybe. But then I don't know, it could be that you're better off to pull a little more gently so you don't bleed off as much energy, I guess. So anyway, we're climbing to 20,000 feet. I went through 20,000 the first time by a decent amount. I go through here as well, but and I'm trying to pull gently so that I don't. It gets kind of wonky if you stall it out up here, and it did a couple of times before, but it recovers well. So anyway, I went a little higher than I should have, and then coming down, I come down a little bit slower than one might be able to, because I'm trying to get lined up on that next obstacle, which is the window there. I can't remember what they call that, but I think it's the window. That's what I call it anyway. So try to get lined up the best I can, and then I try to really put some speed to it, because we've got some ground to cover to go around the Burj Dubai. They might call that something else now. Once upon a time it was Burj Dubai. One of the things that was giving me issues is I'm really used to the newer aircraft that have the what I would consider a more conventional total velocity vector, and I really use that for my obstacle flying. I mean, you have to. So I was really struggling with that, because this Tomcat doesn't seem to have one, but that's okay. You know, you kind of figure out where to point the aircraft, and you get it going. So I'm pulling as hard as I can. This thing's making a really big circle, and I know it can turn tighter than that, but I'm not for sure if my speed brakes weren't extending. They seemed to be at first, but then I couldn't really hear any difference in the air noise, and maybe that's maybe that's correct. I don't really know. So I'm not for sure if I was slowing down as fast as I could have slowed down. The entire idea for me in racing anything is you want to go fast, and you want to slow down fast. So when you need to make those turns, you want to make them as small as possible. So here I didn't turn in as soon as I could have. I'm basically using my blackout as a measure of how hard I can turn in most cases, but I also need to get lined up properly on this next obstacle. Now this one's a fun one. This is obviously the first obstacle I ever did in Dubai, going through the top of the Burj Al Arab, and I want to say I made it through both of the times I got to this point in the course, and I did not think this Tomcat was even going to fit through there. You'll remember if you watched my other videos, I could not get the flanker to get through this thing without crashing. I tried 2 handfuls of times and I couldn't do it. Both times I've tried here, I made it through. Now, I think one of the keys is you got to be going quick so you get those wings swept back, which presents some other problems. But anyway, we're coming up on the finish line, and again, I made it through here both times really easily. This one's a pretty easy obstacle, to be honest, especially if you're halfway lined up on it. So we scare Jester a little bit, get our sync rate up, and then we clear it at 625, maybe 626. So we'll check that against the others real quick, and we're going to start watching this external view so that I can talk about some other stuff, but also so that you can see that it's not correct. So I went back and looked, and it looks like my my best times in the F-18 are 5 minutes and 58 seconds, and in the F-16 5 minutes and 56 seconds, and then in the F-15 5 minutes and 46 seconds. Now the F-18 was lower than that, but I missed a gate, so I got a penalty. And I haven't done it again since then. So clearly I think there's some room to improve the F-14's time. I'm not handling it very well. I went back and watched the old videos, and I think I was taking a more direct route between the obstacles, where here, because I'm new to handling the F-14, and because I was trying to maximize my speed, I was doing kind of more gradual turns and things like that. So obviously I can improve that. You'll notice here I'm just missing, like, it's not correct in the geographic space. It's going around that tower that I placed there, except we never went around the tower. So I'm speeding it up to get back to kind of check how it does through these obstacles. And the truth is, it got closer on these obstacles, so I don't really understand how it's off. But it looks like it's off in altitude a little bit, but I'm not quite for sure. I could compare those, I guess, on the banner, but well, it definitely misses that obstacle, so I don't know. Anyway, real quick, I am very impressed with the F-14 as far as a module goes so far. I've always been impressed with the way it looks. One thing that I don't really like is it takes forever to load the texture files. That and the F-16s do as well. They're huge files, which is part of it, but I've messed with some other really large files. In fact, I doubled the size of the F-18 files just so I could make them more detailed, and my computer loads them just fine. So anyway, I don't really like that, but I'm not for sure if that's not really a problem with the module. That's just the texture files. So, but I'm really impressed with this module. It looks great. There's a lot of detail in the sound. Obviously, they did a lot of work. If you ever watch the videos of them recording the Jester voices and things like that, there's just a lot of detail there in the cockpit. There's a lot of sound that adds to the immersion. I said it looks good already, but one thing that I was surprised about, every module that I ever have installed so far, I've had to spend at least 30 minutes remapping controls. And most of those, you know, I don't mind mapping controls to the way I want them, and you've got to spend some time with a module to kind of figure out what's best and what works for you. But unfortunately, with most of these modules, you've got to go in and clear out a bunch of stuff because all the axis commands are completely messed up and they're multi-mapped. So you've got multiple controls that are mapped to the same thing, and they don't make any sense, and I don't understand why that's still an issue with all my DCS modules. This one, it wasn't an issue. Everything almost was mapped correctly. I had to fix the rudder. That was the only thing I had to fix for basic flight controls. And so that is a huge thing for me and this module. So I wanted to make sure that I said that. Anyway, I'm impressed. You'll see here, he does not fly the way I flew because he crashes into a building. And with that, I'm going to cut it off. And thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and happy flying.